You're not alone, no. See you.
Hi everyone, we want to thank you for joining us today on BBC Unplugged. My name is Pastor Paul Graham and I'm your host, and this is...
Hey, what's up, y'all?
Oh, jeez.
Oh, what happened?
Go ahead.
What? Well, what's up, y'all? It's LaLa.
That's right.
Happy, what is it, Monday?
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
We are going to have a good time tonight. Yo, co-host, LaLa James.
She just cursed at me.
I did not.
Co-host.
I said co-host,
Yes.
LaLa James.
There we go. Go
BBC
ahead.
Unplugged.
Mhm.
We got, guess who in the house? Ali and Denise Marcel of Marriage is Our Ministry. They are back. They are back. And tonight's topic, I'm just going to say from now, we didn't choose it.
We didn't choose it.
Me and Pastor Graham didn't choose tonight's topic.
We didn't choose it.
We blaming them for that one, but we're going to have a good time with
They
it.
chose it.
They sure did. They
All
sure
right.
did. So
Good.
we're going to have a good time with it regardless.
Definitely.
So here we are, Denise and Ali Marcel. Welcome back.
Hello, everybody.
Thank
Thank you.
We're so glad that you guys are able to be back with us. It was some months ago that we were talking about marriage, and then a lot of other topics have come up concerning marriage and about marriage, especially such a topic as this. So you know, I'm scared of the topic because
It's one of my favorites.
it's one of your favorites. Yeah, we know on your commercial that it was one of your favorite topics. So ladies, just talk to us about the topic real quick.
Okay, so tonight's show is entitled Sexually Satisfied or Thirsty. Thirsty just seems like a new word that everybody is talking about. Everybody's thirsty. They're thirsty. Yeah, and it talks about people who are desperate, people who are looking, people who are open. Right? That's what thirsty means. So tonight we're talking about sexually satisfied or thirsty in marriage. You know, because physical intimacy is a big deal, and a lot of people, couples, don't give it the importance that it needs. So we brought in.
I like what you just said. That a lot of folks.
Did he just say? Wait.
What?
Did he just wait?
What happened?
Did you just say? Did he just say he liked what I just said?
I'm not supposed to agree with that.
He's not supposed to agree with me.
That's right. I'm the pastor. I'm the pulpit. She's
And I'm the pew.
That's right.
And I'm the
okay.
pew.
Good,
So-
but I have to agree with you that too many people. I've seen too many people come into come for counseling, and when you look at the issues is that somebody is not holding their end of the deal. Somebody's not holding up their end of the deal. So before we even begin, I want us to pray with each one of us. I'm going to also ask that you take the time out to share this with someone else, because a topic such as this that LaLa just talked about,
Sexually satisfied or thirsty.
Sexually satisfied or thirsty, you got to be somewhere in there, and hopefully not stuck in the middle. Well, maybe the middle is kind of nice, because if you're thirsty, that's messed up. So here we go. Fact of the matter is that we want to pray, ask God's presence to be with us. So wherever you are, we invite God's presence right now. So Father, again, we want to thank you for everything you've done for us. And right now, we're asking that whatever is said and done will be pleasing to you. In Jesus' name, amen.
And let's remind them that they could call in.
That's right.
Remind them. So the number for calling in is 347-989-8128. Again, that number is 347-989-8128. As typical, if you want to speak, press 1. And then we'll be able to know in the studio here that we can come to you. If you're just listening, don't press anything, and you'll just be there to listen. But if you want to talk to us, have any questions for the Marcels, then just go ahead and press 1 and we'll get to you. Okay? If not, then the chat room is open. Praise Vision. Ustream is up. So let's just go ahead and start. I didn't mean to take it from you, but I just had to remind everybody that call in number.
She always means to take it from me.
No,
All right. Come on, let's introduce the Marcels again.
Yes,
Let's introduce the Marcels again. Okay. And so just tell us a little bit about your ministry. Tell us a little bit about what you do, what your goals are, and what you are looking to accomplish tonight.
All right. I'm Oliver. This is my wife, Denise, and Marriage is Our Ministry. Started out as a blog, and we were just blogging, just basically putting our experiences out there, being open and forthright and vulnerable in front of everybody, just in hopes that it would help somebody in their experience. It's now, God is beginning to bless, and it's kind of turning a corner.
Okay.
Looking at possibly doing some radio and doing some seminars and things of that nature. So we just want you to keep us in our prayers, and keep us in your prayers as this thing grows. But that's basically what it is. We just want to share our experiences and just be real
Yes.
with our experiences. We don't want to be fake and sugar-coated and,
Right.
you know, give you what everybody is saying and what you would normally hear wherever you go, in hopes that it would help somebody.
Well, Andy, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to roll with this.
Me too.
And we have too many issues today with married folks. And I'm going to even say this. A lot of people have called in or texted in and said, can singles listen to this? I think that if you're single and you're looking to be married, right? If you're single and looking to be married, you need to get down. All right, you need to get down. You need to listen. You need to make this a part of, you know, this dialogue, because you're going to get there one day, and your expectations, if it's not where it needs to be, you're going to blame yourself, blame the other person, and you probably even will blame God. So get on this. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your enemies, tell the guy that you're trying to get with that you don't know, that he doesn't know you're trying to get with him. But just come on now and let's talk about this subject. What is the big deal about this subject? Landy, what is the big deal about this subject? What's happening in our relationships today, our married relationships today, that's causing people to be thirsty, you know? Because remember now, the real issue here is not thirsty or sexually satisfied. The true issue is that we want to hear from people who are sexually satisfied. We don't really just want to hear from people who are thirsty and then we get your voice. No, we don't want that. What we want is to talk about the good and the bad. So let's look at this whole thing and where we're planning on going right now.
All right. Well, you know, what I have experienced in conversations that I've had with a lot of friends and stuff, it seems like some people, I won't just say it's just a woman thing, because sometimes it's a man thing too.
It's true.
Where they feel like they get in a relationship and they get married and they have now done everything they needed to do to get this person, and they slack off on stuff. You know? And so I hear a lot of people, and again, I'm not just saying women. I hear a lot of people say, no, I don't feel like doing that. I don't feel like being with him or with her. I don't feel like cuddling. He wanted all the time. She wanted all the time. You know, and you hear people going in like that when they're married. And it's unfortunate because, you know, I think that's part of the maintenance in marriage, if you will. You know, so I'm gonna turn it over to the Marcells, because I know they're over here like just chomping. Can't wait. So
and what I liked about what you said about the glue, I want to hear about this glue. As you talk, I want to hear about this glue. Come on, talk to us. Come on.
Well, let me just start out. My wife has something very powerful to read, to share with you.
No, not yet.
Not yet? Okay.
Talk about the glue.
Let me just say this first. To thirst is actually a good thing.
Wow.
However, if that thirst is not quenched, you become thirsty. When you're thirsty, that brings in a whole another set of issues. If you think about your hydration and water, we're thirsty. When you're thirsty, you go get some water. You go get something to drink.
Okay.
However, if water is unavailable to you, and for an extended period of time, water is unavailable to you, then you become thirsty. That thirstiness spills over and creates other issues. And that's the place that we're talking about. Not the thirst. We want you to thirst.
Right.
Please, if you don't thirst, then that's a whole nother topic. You know what I mean? That's a whole other issue. But in terms of the glue, if you think about your day-to-day life, there are strategies and different things that we put in place to get us through our day.
Okay.
We use those things on a consistent basis, whatever those strategies and concepts may be. However, it seems like within marriage, once we get married, we feel like none of those strategies and concepts apply. And just because we're married and now we're married, everything is just going to fly on its own.
Right.
It's just going to be on autopilot. And it doesn't work that way. You have to have some type of adhesive that continues to bring you together, that continues to create that oneness. Now, it's not all sex, and that's why in the little thing that we did, I put at the bottom one of the ingredients. At first I said the glue, but it's not the whole glue, but it's an important component. Those things help to create a bond. If there is no bond, there is no oneness. You know, you can't take two items and say we're stuck together, but one is here and one is here.
You know,
So
I thought what was interesting, as you just said, about thirsty. It's okay to thirst. Because if you're married and you're not thirsting after the one that you want to be with,
Right.
that's a problem. And if you get thirsty, I'm going to tell you right now, if I'm driving down the street and I'm thirsty and that store is closed, the store near to my house is closed. The store at my house is closed.
Right. I hear you.
Are you with me?
I'm with you.
Then you're going to go to the next available door.
Right.
You know, you have to be attracted to the store.
Right.
You don't have to have a nice smell. The truth of the matter is when you and it goes both ways. It's not just a man, it's also a woman, that when you have these expectations and it doesn't happen, you know, the fact of the matter is that people are going to go to the store to quench their thirst.
Right.
And you know, and I just think that that's where we get into it. I hope we're gonna get into it where, you know, all men cheat or all men do this or that and the other. You know, it's not just the appetite. It's the appetite that's not being fulfilled.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah.
It's a dangerous thing.
It is. It
It's a
is.
dangerous thing.
Yeah, we have something that'll kickstart it off, though.
Okay.
Mercy.
We got
Okay.
something that'll
We're gonna start it
kickstart
already?
the.
yeah.
Let's go ahead.
I'm scared.
So
I'm scared too.
read.
Just want you to know. Hold on. Just want you to know that the views that are expressed here
Are not necessarily those
of LaLa James and Pastor Paul Graham.
program.
That's right. Go ahead.
We're gonna keep it real though.
Okay. All right.
We're gonna come from the word first.
All right. All right.
Okay.
Right. We're gonna come from the word first because that's what, you know, underneath all of this is you know, our relationship with God and how this ties into our oneness and the success of our oneness, how that ties into our relationship with God. So we're going to start with the word first, but it is a powerful thing, and it's something that a lot of people kind of shy away from.
Okay.
And it touches on what LaLa was saying about, oh, I don't want to do this, and I ain't really feeling that, and blah blah blah. So that's where we're going to start, and then we're going to go from there. So.
1 Corinthians 7. Just read verse 4. Well, you can read 1 through 4.
Okay. All right. It says, now, for the matters you wrote about, it is good for a man not to have sexual relations with a woman. But since sexual immorality is occurring, each man should have sexual relations with his own wife, and each woman with her own husband. The husband should fulfill his marital duty to his wife, and likewise the wife to her husband. The wife does not have authority over her own body, but yields it to her husband. In the same way, the husband does not have authority over his own body, but yields it to his wife.
So after, that's pretty deep, right?
I'm upset. Go ahead.
Verse 4.
I don't know what version or what virgin wrote it. Go ahead.
So I was just Googling, you know, intimacy as far as the Bible is concerned. And I don't remember the author's name. I can't find it right now. But she wrote, based on verse 4, she said that notice that when we marry, we are no longer to retain our rights over our own bodies, but are to give that authority to our spouses. Remember that two are now one. Your husband is part of you, not separate. When he needs you physically, you are to meet his needs. You have died and are alive for Christ, who expects you to take care of one another's needs. There are many marriages that could have been saved if the wife had understood that her body belonged to her husband, not for abuse, but for fulfilling his sexual needs. Now, a disclaimer, she did say at the end of her article that when she first wrote it, she did gear it mostly towards women, but she did, you know, come to the realization, I guess, that this could apply to men as well. So she talks a lot about the wife should, but also the husband should as well. Basically saying that the husband and the wife are to submit to each other when it comes to sexual fulfillment.
Okay, so let me just ask you a question. So I'm just saying, so if my wife comes to me and she says, I want it Sunday, I want it Monday, I like that. I want it Tuesday. I want it Wednesday. I want it Thursday. Hear me out. I want it Friday. I want it every day this week. I mean, am I supposed to give in to her?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
The simple answer is yes.
Yes.
The simple answer is yes.
According to the Bible, you no longer reign over your body.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
She does.
Right.
Wow, and it's the same.
And
vice versa.
Deep statement.
Yeah, listen, man.
Very deep statement, because if you think about it, that kind of shuts down most of our rebuttals.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know what I
right.
mean?
Yeah,
The headaches, the I'm tired,
yeah, yeah.
the kids were stressing me out,
Yeah.
Okay,
it's
okay.
late.
Using it as a bargaining chip.
Right.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
using it as a tool.
Yes.
Using it as a tool, being like, you know, you didn't do that for me, so
Right.
guess what? I'm not gonna do that. That's
Right. So you didn't do that? Oh, you ain't gonna be doing nothing else either.
That's sinful.
Exactly.
Oh, so that's a sin. Oh, wait, hold on. So that means it's a sin. That means if you withhold yourself from your wife, or you withhold yourself from your husband, especially when you can,
Right.
then that isn't that. I'm just saying it should be in the category of not pleasing God.
Yes.
You know, not pleasing God. And I'm first of all, I'm loving this already. So for all of you guys who are out there, all of you ladies who
And
are out
women
there,
as well.
that's right. Well, withholding, you know, and it's not that you got married to do that, but you got married, and that is an incentive. That is an incentive, the glue, as you say, not just the glue, but it's the thing that keeps it together. Because you can always glue something, and then it unglues.
Right.
Right.
You can always glue something and unglue. So it's almost like you got to keep on doing this to keep this thing glued together.
Yeah.
You're reapplying
Oh,
that adhesive.
wait. That sounded like a little nasty right there. No, it did.
Hey,
You gotta
that's where we at right now.
We got to keep reapplying
That's
the
where we
adhesive.
reapplying that adhesive.
And if the adhesive don't work, you should at least use the slippery thing.
That's right.
This-
All right.
Whatever works.
Mercy.
I'm
Whatever
just saying.
brings you together.
Denise
Whatever-
said mercy.
Whatever brings you
Whatever
together.
brings you together.
Dang. Yes. Yes.
I'm telling you, I'm starting to sweat a little bit.
But I think that's a good point, though. I think that if it were really emphasized that, you know, we are obligated,
Wow.
that's an obligation.
That's a strong word,
That's,
though.
yeah, that's a
But
strong
it's
word.
true.
Strong word.
Yep.
I mean, we are obligated to our spouse
Uh-huh.
on that level. I mean, all these games that people play,
Yeah.
trying to control situations by controlling that and determining when and how and all that stuff, that will come to an end. You know what I mean?
But so, Landy, I'm going to ask you this question. I mean, if you're obligated to each other, then somewhere in there you're obligated to God.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So that means
yeah.
that intimacy that you're not doing, you're obligated to God, or the intimacy that you keep doing, or the intimacy that you keep doing, makes you closer to God. I mean, I really believe if you have a healthy sex life in the confines of marriage, I believe you will have a better relationship with God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay?
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, because even God, in the context of sin or moving away from God, He calls them adulterers. It has nothing to do with
Wow.
sexual activity.
Right.
You know, and
That's a good
even
point.
you know, in whores, it has nothing to do with sleeping around. It has to do with what you're interested in instead of what you're supposed to be interested
Wow.
in. And so when you look at a situation like that, you have to ask yourself the question, you know,
Serious.
think about why did God want you and Denise to get together? Why did God want you and Allie to get together? Why did God want me and Woody to get together? So that we would have a taste of Him.
Wow.
That's
You know,
so
I
true.
feel every ejaculation should be like heaven.
Should be.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And you know what's funny?
No,
you know,
sorry,
you know what's funny about what you just said?
You just said that.
I read something that was almost those exact same words. Talking about the orgasm and paralleling that with the being ushered in, as it were.
That's worship.
Wow.
I believe it's worship.
That is
I'm
worship.
sorry, that's worship.
It is
That's-
worship.
Yes, it is.
That's-
Well, guys,
that's
y'all can
worship.
stay here. I'm going upstairs.
But I mean, but yeah,
I'm going right upstairs.
I think what actually takes place when you experience that with your spouse, I think it's such a powerful thing. I mean, even if you guys are having issues and argument and stuff like that or whatever, and you still decide, okay, well, regardless, even though we're not agreeing right now, we still do it.
Is that
Yeah.
possible?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, that's
Is that
possible.
possible?
Oh,
That's
absolutely.
No. Listen,
Now, I'm gonna
I'm
get
not. No, listen. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I don't know. I can't even say that about my wife. I'm saying about me. I think if I consider myself as a person that likes intimacy, that loves intimacy. But when I'm angry, I just can't. You know, I think. Well, Lanny, you look a little messed up over there.
No, I'm over here. I'm waiting for you to say what you're saying. I'm just waiting.
There's some people that can't put their minds to it because their emotions are too messed up right now.
Right.
I think it's okay. I think it's fair to acknowledge your emotions, right? I think it's fair to be like, you know what, I'm a little upset right now, whatever. Take time to do what you need to do to calm yourself or whatever. But if that is supposed to happen that night, then it should happen.
Yeah.
I don't think that because your emotions are all over the place or whatever, that it should stop it. Even if it isn't resolved yet. Because even in, and I'm talking, this is me personally now, even in arguments with my husband, at the end of the day, I still have his back. So I may be mad at you right now over this thing, but if somebody were to come in this house and come after you, I'm going for them.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean?
Yeah, then afterwards you have his front.
And then I got it.
That is,
So,
he got his back, he got his front.
you know?
So it's all good.
Yeah.
No 18-year-old under on this.
I already said no children.
That's right, that's right.
No children. This is grown folk talk.
That's right. You know, have you, Ali and Denise, have you guys seen any situations so far where, of course no names, of course, where people are going through this situation, where there's no intimacy there? Can you give us an example? Can you give us something that you have helped some other individual, or if not helped them, what kind of advice would you give on a situation like that?
Well, I don't know that there's no intimacy at all, but I know that there is, I'll speak for myself, and this is kind of a reversal than what is the norm, where it is the wife that is feeling neglected. And it's a really hurtful thing because you start to wonder, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with him? Why doesn't he desire me? So, you know, I don't know that I've given her any advice other than, you know, pray for him, it's not you type thing. I think it's worked from what I've heard and what I've seen. I think that it has worked, but yeah, I've definitely seen it.
Would you say praying for the individual? Praying for your husband?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, there's
wow.
I think that, you know, again, going back to the whole thing with once you get married, just kind of the whole covering of the word marriage is gonna, you know, solve everything. A lot of times we don't pray about our sexual fulfillment.
Part of that reason is why.
I
got like three up in my head. But,
I have
go
one.
ahead. Okay, go ahead.
I think that part of the reason is I think that the world has made sex such a nasty thing.
Okay.
And they tend to have forgotten that this was created by God.
Yes.
This was given to us by God. This is a way to create. This is a way to become one. And he gave it to us for pleasure as well.
Right.
And I think that the world has just tainted it so much that it's just, you know, people just don't think of it in a positive light as they should.
So you're saying
No.
So one of the biggest issues is that we don't see it as a spiritual thing.
No.
We see it as a secular thing.
Exactly.
We see, and well, part of the reason why we also see it as a secular thing because society uses something spiritual, turns it into something secular.
Exactly.
And we then, you know, dichotomy, what's the word, Landy? That we split up the two when it's really one.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and then of course, you know, we then add some things into our relationship. And this is, you know, we're talking. Then we add some things into our relationship that may not be healthy, but it seemed to be healthy because if we say that the marriage bed is undefiled, you know, there are individuals who have come to me as a pastor and said, Pastor, we are sexually active, but I'm bored in it.
Mercy.
Wow.
Okay, but I'm bored in it.
Wow.
How do you answer a question like that? I mean, how do you approach a situation like that?
Well, you got to communicate.
Okay.
And we don't talk about it. You know, as husbands and wives, it's a conversation that we don't have.
Right.
And I think some of that is based on our point of reference. Because our point of reference for sex was not wholesome in nature.
Right.
We associate that point of reference with everything else that comes after it. So if my first experience with sex was, you know, the girl 3 years older than me showing me everything she knew. Now I take that experience, and that is my umbrella or my point of reference for everything else that happens in my marriage. So if I felt uncomfortable with that situation, I felt uncomfortable with how it turned out, I was, a little self-conscious, I take all of that into my relationship.
Wow.
And so you got to talk. You got to begin the dialogue. It's just certain things you won't know unless you ask.
Well,
plain and simple.
Here's a situation that, and I can be wrong, and if I'm wrong, fight me, write me. I really and honestly believe, this is me now, I honestly believe that when you're dating, when you're exclusively dating, in fact, when you're at the place where you're ready to be married to one person, to that person that you've been dating.
You're courting? More like courting is what you're
courting,
talking about?
that's a better word.
Okay.
That's a better word. Because I remember in the discussion that we had some time ago that your husband mentioned that what was that situation? What did he say again?
He was saying he doesn't believe in dating. He believes in courting. He believes that when you're going out and learning people and whatnot, you should do like the group date thing. Where you go out with a group of people and you find out, people's likes, dislikes. You determine who you like out of that group or whatever, and you just do that. You don't exclusively do anything. Once you get to exclusivity, then it now begins. It becomes courting.
The courtship begins.
Right. The courtship begins.
Do you speak about your sexual mindset in the courting?
I think so.
Okay.
I think you definitely have to. If this is the person that you think that you feel like this is the person that I'm going to spend the rest of my life with, you need to, convey your desires, your likes. You may not know what your likes are. Hopefully you don't necessarily physically know what your likes are, but you need to convey what your feelings are, and vice versa. It needs to be known.
Well,
Yeah, it's a discussion you have to have. I think again, it goes into our, goes back to our point of reference. We feel funny about having that discussion during the courting phase because of our point of reference. Like, okay, why should we be talking about sex right now?
Right.
But the talking about it does not indicate the fact that we're not going to talk about it and then do it 5 minutes later. You talk about everything else. You talk about your finances. And it goes back to what I was saying before. The strategies and concepts that we use for everything else gets thrown out of the window when it comes to marriage. You talk about your finances. Do you have debt? Do you have school loans? We talk about all of that stuff, but when it comes to sex, it's just like,
we don't have time. We want to find out.
When we get married,
like after the fact,
it'll just take off. It's just like,
yeah.
It doesn't happen that way. You got to talk about it. You got to have a conversation. You got to sit down and talk about what you like and what you don't like. There's certain things that I would not know about Denise if I didn't ask her, or if she didn't tell me, hey, I don't like that, or I like this. This works. That doesn't work.
And I think too, to go back to the point where Pastor Graham, where you mentioned that you've seen couples where they say they're just bored. I think that it's okay to be like, this is what I like. Let me show you. Let me show you what I like and how I like to be touched here and how I like. I think that's important to say. Yes. Because your spouse doesn't read minds. Nor does your spouse necessarily know that you like that particular thing.
That's right.
So be comfortable enough to say, I like when you did that, or I don't like that, but try this. Right. So you can build, because look, this is you and him, you and her for the long haul.
Forever.
Ain't no point being messed up for the rest of your life. Yeah. So it's best to just be like, this is what I like, because for the next 40 years I want you to do it.
See, I think the biggest I for the next 40 and then wait, and remember now, and you gotta understand that in marriage, your spouse might like something for only a season.
Right.
I didn't mind doing that when we were together for the first 5 years. But after I had my child, after you had the child, or then there's kids in the house, or then you start thinking, maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe you got a relationship with the Lord, right? That's a little different, and you're saying, okay, I feel funny doing that because of my spiritual walk. Or you understand where I'm coming from? Which again, it couples back to what we talked about before concerning if this thing is spiritual, if this intimacy is spiritual, if it's me and you, not me, you and Steve, or me, you and the, because I remember there was a theologian in one of my MDiv in my school who basically said the marriage bed being undefiled means, you know, you can have an orgy as long as everybody agrees with it.
Whoa.
You know, I mean, I was flabbergasted.
Wow.
I was flabbergasted. I wasn't really flabbergasted. I was like, word? I checked into the Greek. But the fact is, the truth of the matter is that we don't talk enough about how serious this thing is. That it is just as serious as you reading your word.
Yeah, it is.
It is just as serious as your communication with God.
Yeah.
Because if God puts you with this person, and you have to find, if you with God have to find new ways of communicating with God, like God, I can't get up 5 o'clock in the morning. Then God will say, okay, look, do 9, as long as you communicating with me. We got individuals that says, look, I'm not a morning person, so that means if you're not a morning person, you don't want to have sex in the morning. And you're not an evening person, so you don't want to have sex in the evening, then where do you meet the minds? You've got to sit down and talk about this, because the truth is, can we talk about it? The truth is, people are not, in a relationship, are not going to hold on that long.
No.
They're not going to hold on, because either they're going to walk out of the relationship, or they're going to end up pleasing themselves. You know, I'm talking about masturbation. They're going to start pleasing themselves. And anyone who spends their time pleasing themselves is not going to be, what's the word? Their mate will no longer be able to please them.
Right.
You see where I'm coming from?
Right.
So you're going down a slippery slope. You know, no pun intended. You know, but the I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
That was good.
Okay.
Good to you, man.
You know, so my main thing is, I think we need to be real about it. And when we look at the boredom issue, it is somebody's fault when you're not able to say, like Landy, like LaLa, like you said, I like that.
Right.
I don't like that. Touch me here. Touch me there.
Right.
This what does it for me. Or understand that marriage is a lot like heaven. Just one last thing. It's a lot like heaven. I really believe that marriage is like heaven and eternity, because you can be 70 and still finding out things about your wife and your marriage.
Yep.
Right.
Anytime you feel that you've cornered the market on your marriage, then you have said there's no more eternity in this.
Right.
And we understand through His Word and through other readings that eternity is about always learning, always finding out new things. So then maybe the intimacy is jacked up because we stop learning, because we stop dating. And when we stop dating, you're not going to get you're just not going to get yours.
And we stop trying to please the other one.
That's a big one.
That's huge, because a lot of people go in to please themselves. And we have a question that's coming out of the chat room where it talks about what happens if it turns abusive. So like if there's a sexual addiction and the husband is using his spouse, his wife, as essentially just a sex tool, you know, that's addiction, and that's all he wants her for, you know. How do you deal with that? That's actually coming out of the chat room. How do you deal with that?
Well, first of all, how do you identify, first of all, that
it's abusive?
That it's abusive.
I think that what the person is saying, and they're following, so they can. But I think what the person is saying is that it's abusive because it's not about a love for her; it's about using her.
Oh, man.
So that's why it's abusive. It's not about, you know, I'm concerned about you and I'm doing this because I really want to bond with you or whatever. I'm doing this out of selfish reasons. It's about me. This is what I want, and I'm using you to get it.
Wow,
That's a big one.
And the question is, does she still submit to that whenever the husband wants it? Woo! Hey! Yes, go ahead. I'm gonna let that.
All right.
I'm gonna let the Marcells get that.
Yeah. Already, my mind is somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? I'm like Samson, tie me up. You know. What he said. How may I afflict you so you may lose your strength?
Right.
I say, if you lose strength by ejaculating, so afflict me.
Right.
You know? I'm sorry.
I don't know. Whenever I hear the word abuse, I'm like, shut it down.
Okay.
So, but I don't know necessarily if that's right or wrong. But that's me. I would shut it down. But I don't know.
I would say, this is what I would say. First of all, you got to know your spouse. One, so you got to know this person. You got to know if you can talk to him. If you can talk to him, because there's some people who have a situation that they're working through, or they're dealing with, not necessarily working through, but they're dealing with, but they are still reasonable in the sense that you can sit down and say, okay, this is really not what I had in mind. Now, if he is that way, then that's the approach you want to take. That could spill into, you bringing in a third party or having to go see a counselor or a sex therapist or something like that to have him work through those issues. In terms of, do you still submit? The hard answer.
Come on,
the
man.
hard answer is yes. Now,
Jesus.
Now, there's a.
I believe it, but I wouldn't have said it.
Right. The hard answer. The hard answer is yes.
I'm just saying.
But it's not necessarily a cut and dry answer.
Okay.
So the hard answer is yes. However, you have to put some things in place, whether it is counseling, whether it is being able to talk to him, whatever those things are that you have to put in place, you will have to put those pieces in place around that yes. It's not just a yes, lay down, and this is the end, this is how it's going to be forever. It's a yes with the contingency plans that you put in place, whatever those may be. And you would know what those are based on, your relationship with your husband. It may mean counseling, it may mean sex therapy, it may mean, whatever it may mean.
And could it possibly be that the husband doesn't even realize that he's being selfish?
It could be. It could be a point of reference thing.
Could it be that she just needs to talk to him, and say, I kind of feel like, you're using me type thing, for the bells to go off in his mind and say, wow, I'm sorry. I didn't realize.
But how do you then, if this is what a guy likes, okay? And if this is what a guy likes, and I'm gonna give a strong example, because the person didn't say bondage like what I just joked about.
Right.
The person said that it just seemed like they're using me just for that, which means there's something definitely wrong with the relationship, not just the intimacy, but the relationship, because the person is not saying that they don't like. I'm sorry. The person not saying that they don't want to submit. The person say, I'm not willing to submit to someone who's not adding on to that.
Okay.
So
there's something happening outside.
There's something wrong. I believe that more women would submit to their husbands if their husbands would take care of them.
Yeah.
Would be more loving, would be more, I just think that a lot of men feel like this is what I want, give it to me, but I don't have to do either. Right. You see where I'm coming from? And it is a two-way street.
You can't gain intimacy that way. I mean, just the whole nature of women negates that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because for a woman, you have to create. You don't just create that it doesn't just happen when the clothes come off. There's a process for women. For guys, it can be that. It can be that quickly.
Right.
But it's a process for women. And you got to know you're a woman, and you have to know your woman to the point where you know where to start that process. It may start at breakfast. You might have to make her breakfast and whisper something in her ear. And then when she's at work, you might have to send her a text. And you might have to send her an email.
Yes, sir.
You might have to call her and say, you may have to work up to that. And so you have to know your spouse. And if you're not doing those things, you're not taking care of her, you're not making her feel secure, you're not making love to her mind, as it were, then that's going to be the bottom line of that. She's going to feel like that's all you want, because you're going to be from 0 to 100 when the clothes come off, but when the clothes go back on, then you can't. You're not doing anything for her.
Would a woman leave? I know we always talk about men, but would a woman leave for that? I want to know. And please, I'm not putting you out there, LaLa or Denise. I'm not putting you out there. But what I'm asking is, how far does a woman go before she says, I'm done with this? Like, I'm done. Like, I don't want to do anything. What are the reasons why a woman would just not be with their husbands? For what reasons?
I think if it appears that he is not acknowledging your concern, he is not respecting, what you're saying and whatnot, and he's kind of like, well, whatever, get over it. I think at that point you start to see, okay, well, he's really not trying to work on this. And so if you're just wading in the water and not making progress, then maybe you need to start, okay, well, if he doesn't want to move forward and fix this thing, then I need to make a decision. I think at that point is when the woman should start saying, okay, well, have I exhausted all options, all avenues to make this work? And if so, then okay, then let's have a little more of a difficult conversation.
Mercy, yeah, I agree.
And
I agree.
that also speaks to the whole thirsty issue, because at that point now your thirst has become thirsty. And when you become thirsty, you start looking for options.
Yes, and you start
quench
wearing
that,
it.
right?
Have you ever seen, have you ever seen a thirsty person?
Yeah.
You can almost smell it on them.
Tell.
You know, you can tell the way they posture themselves, the way, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know several people who would say they're not giving it off. They're not giving off that thirsty
aura.
thing,
Right.
but they are.
Yeah.
They walk around and you can tell they're walking around saying, I'm lonely and I will do it if she ain't gonna do it.
Yeah.
For real.
Wow, I don't even think that's thirsty anymore. You're parched.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know what I mean? And,
Yeah.
and people give that off. You know,
Right.
man and woman.
That's true. That's true.
Man and woman.
That's true. You know, this thing is not. This is not exclusive to just men. Is that right? Wait, inclusive. This thing. It's not just for men. You know, I really feel that it's the devil's plan to mess up that whole intimacy.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
the devil's plan to mess up
Yes.
that whole intimacy. Now, let me tell you something. I don't care what happens in life. It is the greatest drug in the world. It is the greatest drug in the world. If you have a great sex life, even if you're not married, I'm just giving it to you straight. Even if you're not married, the best thing about being married is that you know that you're doing this thing and God loves what you're doing, and that you don't got to worry about any diseases or anything like that, and you got to worry about the right thing. You can do it. You can,
Okay.
yes, you can do it. You can do whatever.
Wherever.
You know,
Wherever, whenever.
in the car.
Right.
You know,
Right.
in the church office.
Hey now. Don't be talking your business.
I ain't talking
Come on
about
now. Because ain't nobody else in there in the church office.
All over the place for a church.
I'm just saying.
You know, I just think that this thing is so beautiful.
Right.
You know, and we get that mindset. We get that mindset from the very fact that God, when He created woman, He took something out of a man and put it in a woman. And even in the sexual connotation of it all, when we are with each other, a man is taking something and putting it in a woman.
Right.
And so, and the mindset is that Adam and Eve, I believe Adam and Eve did this thing consistently as the Sabbath rolls around, as consistent as there's a Sabbath. Is to memorialize that God is the creator.
Right.
We ought to do this constantly to say that the creator put us together. You see where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
So again, it's and it should be monumental.
Right.
It should be monumental. You know, my uncle calls people who just lay down. You know, people who just lay down. What was it you earlier told me that? I just bed bullies.
People who just lay down as bed bullies?
No, not just, okay, like my mom called it dead fish. Sometimes you have some people, them just dead fish. You know, just lay down there, you know. I mean, and in The Color Purple, I like in the movie The Color Purple, when she explains what Mr. is doing to her, she says, I just feel like he's using the toilet on me. You know, there's no, what's the word again? There's no exchange. And when you get to the point when there's no exchange, this is me, when you get to the point when there's no exchange and there's one person, that's when it becomes abusive, that's when it becomes demonic, that's when it becomes anything outside of God becomes you know, I was talking to a couple the other day that likes something. They do this particular thing. You know, for me to listen to something like that, you know, I'm just that kind of guy that I would say, you know, honey, let's try that. If she says to me, I don't want to do that, then the conversation is over.
Right.
Because the next conversation should be, if not that, then what?
Right.
You see where I'm coming from? But many times we stop the conversation right there. That if you don't want to do that, then okay, then it's over. Then
shut everything down.
And then when it shuts everything down, you move further apart and further apart.
Right.
And I think that Ali and Denise, you started out this whole thing by saying what causes people to be thirsty is not doing the act. It's really not doing the first act, and that's communicating.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's simple communication.
We have another question that just came in the chat room. What happens when you are no longer attracted to your spouse?
I don't know how that's possible. Wow. I don't know. How is that possible?
No, I've read stories where it's been more on the male side. This has been more on the male side, though, where the wife, after having kids, she's put on some weight, and he's no longer attracted. He's not attracted to that size woman.
Okay.
Right. So because of that, he's having a hard time, and that's because men are visual.
Right.
He's having a hard time with that.
Okay, I can see that.
Right.
I can see.
But
that.
like for a woman, I mean, men typically don't change too much.
Right. So I just want to stick a pin in there. I don't know, Denise, how you can see that because Ali will stop talking to me on the phone and say I gotta go. So I don't know how you can see that. I'm not sure how you can see that. I'm just telling you, he was my roommate in school, and I just want you to know that I don't know how you can say that. I don't know where your testimony is coming from. So I just want you to know that might have worked for the audience.
You said but for me.
But for Ali at his house, he shall continue serving the Lord.
Yes.
So go ahead and you can speak so everyone. So how preachers preach. We, us, we all have issues. This brother don't have no issues. I'm sorry. I apologize. I can see that. I can see that. No, I can't see that. You can have more babies and come up in here, and there's still going to be a situation happening.
And I think, and that's what you said though. I think that at some point, the person who is having the issue with the attraction at some point has to kind of look within themselves. Yes, to some degree, I will say that, obviously if your wife was a size 6 when you got married and you were only into size 6s, and that was a big part of why you got, with this person, I do understand the wrestling that, that person may have if she's now a size 12. But at the same time, between the 6 and the 12, there should have been
some kind of connection.
Right. There should have been some connection that would allow you to grow in more and more in love with this person so that the size 12 is not that much of an issue. That's number one. Number two, on the female side, whether you're a 6 or a 12, you can be sexy.
Right.
And so that is the woman's duty to make sure that she owns
it.
Right.
Yes.
That's the perfect word. That she's owning that 12.
Absolutely.
And if she owns that 12, men are visual. Right. And you can say you love a size 6 all you want, but if you see a sexy 12,
what?
You gonna double up.
You're gonna make it work.
You're gonna make it work.
You're gonna make it work.
You're gonna make it work. Let's be real. Have you ever seen a married couple and you say, well, how did they get with that person? And how did they? Because that brother made love to her mind.
Yeah.
So that person can be large like the wall. When you love that person and when you are spiritually connected to that person, it doesn't matter. That intimacy is going to happen.
Yep.
And Iyanla Van Zandt said it best. Intimacy means into me. See? And a lot of people, I think, they separate themselves because they're not into each other anymore. They was into what they saw. They was into the moment. And too many marriages are just being totally destroyed because you got married because of that moment.
Right.
And then even if you got married for that moment, okay, then the glue, come on now, then the glue, God got a funny way of fixing the moment issues.
Right.
Exactly.
With the glue. Can you imagine you got married to somebody because you know, and then they start getting on your nerves. You go to counseling, you start praying, you find out this girl had been getting on my nerves for the longest time. She looking kind of good in that dress.
Right.
Oh wait, that's mine.
Right.
And then that glue puts it together, and then you
Right.
recognize that this glue, you got to understand that this glue is not permanent glue.
Right. You gotta reapply.
You got to reapply.
Yes.
You got to reapply.
Yeah.
And you got to make a conscious decision,
Mm-hmm.
which, you know, a lot of people, you know, they miss that point. You have to make a conscious decision. Even with the size 6 and 12 thing. You got to make a decision. I'm going to stick with this girl because this is my girl. And that's part of the process. A lot of times, you know, the guy is not attracted anymore because they don't want to make that decision. And if you don't want to make that decision, then that leads into some other areas that are missing within the marriage. Because if you can't make that decision throughout the years that she's gone from the 6 to 12, that means that throughout those years there have been some other components of that marriage that haven't been in place.
Right.
Because it's not all about the sex. Sex is great. Having a sexy wife is great. But there's some things that she could be as sexy as she wants, but if you can't talk to her, if she can't talk to you, or if she talks to you anyhow, or you talk to her anyhow, y'all can't come together on simple issues. It don't matter how sexy she is, you know. So there's other components that, you know, at work as well.
I'm gonna give a quick shout out to Kevin Davis on Facebook. He said clearly the panel that is sitting around these cameras don't have a problem with a little bump and grind. Clearly. So shout out to Katie in Atlanta.
That's right. You know, I was talking to a sister today who said that she didn't know whether she wanted to go online or not because she's been married. I believe she said she had a child, but her husband died. Okay? Now, you're talking about someone who has a child, who enjoyed intimacy with this person, and now thirsty. Okay? Now, I want to be clear about something. What she mentioned to me was that she was not thirsty. I'm thinking if my wife died, I'd be thirsty. But you know, or even if she divorced me, I'll be thirsty. But being thirsty, the problem we're not talking about the thirst of you not being married or you losing a spouse and whatever. We're talking about thirsty being that you got a fridge full of Coca-Cola. You understand what I'm saying? And it's in front of your face. And you can't get it.
Right, there's a lock on it.
There's a lock on it. No one should have to live like that.
No.
Because that can turn any animal crazy. I mean, if you got to fix a dog, right? I mean, if you got to fix a dog, simply because the dog is tearing up the house, is pissing all over the place. Is that the right word? Peeing all over the place. You know, is dashing out the house to find any squirrel to jump on.
Right.
Not even another dog.
Yeah.
What does the owner do? What does the owner do? The owner takes it in and fix him.
Right.
People cannot get fixed like that.
Yeah.
That means if you have a desire and you're with someone who you desire and that person desires you, or that person does not desire you, I think we don't teach biblically what God is saying about marriage. If you can't hold up your end of the bargain, then you should not be married.
Yeah.
Wow.
You should not be
But
married.
what if that is discovered after the marriage has already? What if that is discovered after you're married, though? I mean, first of all, is this truly an issue that is large enough to end that marriage? Is it? Right? And if it is not, then, and it doesn't change, do you live like that the rest of your life? Do you live in that? I mean, that gives me a headache just thinking about it. I mean, do you go there for the rest of your life? Is that your plight?
You know what I can't stand? I can't stand when people say that sex is not a big part of marriage.
It is.
I've heard
Huge
it.
part of marriage.
I've heard it.
Jimmy, it is.
When you go to some of these seminars, and they say, sex is 10% of the marriage, and that. Well, if sex is 10% of the marriage, then 90% it was my expectations before getting married.
Yeah. I say all the time. Niecy and I were the best of friends, and I could be her best friend without being her husband.
Mm.
There was some specific reasons why I wanted to be her husband.
Well,
And one of those reasons was I wanted to be able to have sex under the umbrella of heaven.
Yes.
You wanted.
You know what I'm saying?
You,
I wanted God to be able to look in on me.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
I wanted to be able to perform for Him.
what?
That's what I'm talking about. Right there.
Oh,
That's what I wanted to do.
Let me tell you,
get a room.
if I had space in the studio to dance,
Yes.
I would take off dancing.
It's okay.
That's
You
all
know,
right.
I am.
I mean, that's real though. That's
It is.
that is a huge part of why I got married, because we were already friends.
Absolutely.
We could have been friends to this day, the best of friends. Talk about everything. You know.
I would just say I like her cooking.
Yeah.
Yes, that's it. That's the only reason why in college I kept saying, Ali, hurry up, go back to the house. We'll come back with some rice and peas.
Right.
Or you come back empty-handed. Brother, you can't go over there and come back.
You know, but yeah, that's how that's how I felt, and so I agree with you. I'm saying that to say I agree with you that it is a very large part.
Laddie, I want you to do something, and this is out of character because you usually have your own stuff to say. I would love for you to Facebook, to status, that the reason why we got married was to have sex and perform for God.
Yeah, I'm about to tweet that. I've been tweeting stuff he's saying all night. So I'm about to tweet that.
Yeah, it is. But that's what
I expect that when y'all get home.
I'm about to say, it's about to be a good
It's on. Listen, yes. I tell you right now, I think that what a lot of young people miss, or a lot of divorcees miss, or a lot of people who are not married miss, is this kind of stuff that does not come out in counseling.
Yeah.
The kind of stuff that, and this is why I really believe that pastors should not be counseling individuals, and they're not equipped to do it. Okay, and I'm not saying that. I think pastors are equipped to do certain things, such as before marriage. Because we're taught how to walk you through the steps before marriage. But when you go into a situation like this, don't come to a pastor. Unless that individual is prepared or is equipped to handle that. And I think that one of the things that has destroyed our generation, especially our spiritual generation, is that we have not taken the opportunity, I believe, that we have not taken the opportunity to tell the younger generation that it's okay. That this is what God is expecting. God says be fruitful and multiply. And then when you finish multiplying, still be fruitful.
Yeah.
And a lot of marriages, once the children are born and the multiplying happens, then you cease to be fruitful. But God wants us to continue to be fruitful. He wants us to continue to make love. He wants us to send the kids away. He wants us to say, look, we have bills. The bills are piled way high. And just because you got bills doesn't mean that should deter you from making love.
That should actually move you to make love.
Right.
There's someone on the phone, I think. The top number right there.
Top number, okay.
I can't see it from here, so obviously.
951. Okay.
All right, so we have area code 951 on the phone. Click the next one. Yeah, that one. The next one, next to it. To the left.
To the left.
Yeah. To the
yes,
left.
there I go.
There you go. 951. You are on with BBC Unplugged.
Hey y'all, what's going on?
What's up,
Y'all know it's about to be on and crack.
What's up, man?
I'm yo, what's up, Ali? What's up, Paul?
I'm here, baby.
Niecy, what's going on?
What's
Who
up,
else is in the room? I heard lots of voices.
Who else is in the room? You better go somewhere. You need to hang up that phone and call back if you're going to ask who else is in the room.
Oh, LaLa, of course. It goes without saying. Listen, I only jumped in and just drop some thoughts on you guys real quick. I appreciate the topic, and it's really, really good for people to understand that this whole idea of sex within marriage and the sexuality, it should not be looked at in a perverted light because God created sex, and I believe you guys all probably covered that point already. But what I wanted to just drop on you guys to make you think is that when God created humanity, by simply separating man from woman, he created sex and gender, and sexuality, the act of sex itself, brings what he made two back into one again. And the important thing that we must realize about the Bible is that there is no such thing in the Word as premarital sex. Every act of sex in the Bible is a marriage. And for us not to be able to talk about sex and marriage is a misnomer, because that's why God created humanity, was to have sex, and that is the marriage itself. Everything else is formality. The wedding, the reception, the wedding party, all of that stuff is all fluff. The actual centerpiece of it all is when the man and his wife lay down and they consummate their marriage. That's what God considers. Okay, now it's official.
Wow.
And people don't realize that. So we talk about, okay, we segment sexuality away from marriage, when God never did that. It was always one and the same. There was never any compartmentalization between sex and marriage. It was always one and the same.
Yeah, so Pastor, let me ask you a question. Someone comes to you, they're speaking to you about their issues concerning that they want to get a divorce. Why do they want to get a divorce? They want to get a divorce because we're not compatible anymore. What is the first question that you would ask? Or what would be the first concern that you would get into? How would you dig deep to kind of find out how they got there? You understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah, I got you. I would begin by starting listen. If it's the woman that's complaining about it, I'm going to ask her, have you, when was the last time you had mind-blowing sex with your husband? Number two, if it's the man, I would ask him, when was the last time you paid close attention to your wife's emotional and spiritual needs and mental needs, psychological needs? Because if you're not doing that, then you can't talk to me about we're not compatible anymore, because by virtue of the fact that God created man and woman, he's already made you 100% compatible. It is up to us to work out the rest. This whole idea of incompatibility is immature.
Listen. While this,
you saying something, Lewis?
Lewis, while this thing is being rebroadcast, you owe me a pulpit. You owe me a pulpit time.
Dang, all I need is an invite, homie.
Okay, good. Well, I ain't got to pay for hotels because you be staying in Baltimore. Listen, man, I love the.
But seriously, that's what I would do, man. I would cut through all the fluff, because there's a lot of people who believe that, for instance, there are women out there who are wives, who think if they're mad at their husbands, they're going to cut them off from sex.
Right.
And the Bible tells us in 1 Corinthians 7 that we, men and women, ought to render due benevolence, a.k.a. you ought to have sex with your wife, you ought to have sex with your husband. Yeah. And it also says, defraud ye not one another. That means to tell your spouse no is a sin. Oh, it is a sin according to Scripture to deny your spouse sex.
That's tweetable right there.
Because that's why God created it.
That's right.
It's for marriage.
Right.
So what if I have a headache? Well, he's not asking for your head.
There you go.
So
and you know what's crazy? Hey, Lewis, you know what's crazy? I read that sex is a great remedy for headaches.
Come on, boss.
So that argument is null and void right there. You got a headache? Oh, we must.
Tylenol? No, I am Tylenol.
Right. Yeah, I got two you can take.
Hey, I got two in a long shot.
Yeah. I mean, it's time, man, for us to understand the sacredness and the beauty of sexuality, because God created it and the devil perverted it.
Yes.
That's all he's done. That's all he's been able to do, because he cannot he cannot recreate himself.
Mm-hmm.
And so he wants to pervert humanity because we resemble God.
Right.
When a man and wife are engaged in the sex act. And he says, okay, if that's what it means, then I'm going to have a man and man lay together, a woman and woman lay together. And the thing is, you know, not to detract from your subject, but society has got us thinking that a man and a man can get married. It's impossible because God doesn't recognize that.
Mm-hmm.
He only recognizes a man and a woman because that's what he created.
That's right. That's
And
right.
I wish I had the time to unpack that for you. I just don't want to hog up the airtime.
Let me tell you something. What you've presented just now, gems.
Yeah.
Gems. That's all I can say is gems. And it's beautiful to hear it coming from a spiritual leader.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to because the spiritual leaders are not talking about it. The spiritual leaders are not talking.
I do.
Oh, I hear you. and I do also. You know, I talk about it and I gotta do it. You know, and look at this. And I'm gonna ask you, right, while we're on, not to leave, Louis. Just stick around, okay? Simply because we got a question that's coming in from Columbia, Maryland. You see that? We have a question that's coming in from Columbia, Maryland. Are you with me? Okay. Oh no, wait. I can say her name. She asked. A question's coming in from Kwani. That's it, Kwani, Miss Kwani. Do you want to read that question? Do you see it?
Yeah, the question is, what if a spouse has been abused sexually and has psychological barriers that make intimacy difficult?
Difficult for who, though?
The one who's been abused, I'm sure.
Okay.
Maybe, the one who's been abused. Who wants to take that one?
Yeah, you want to talk about it? Or
Go ahead. Say what you're going to say.
Well, I was just going to say that's definitely a viable issue because that does happen. And what I believe has to happen in that place, is your spouse has to be patient. And he has to be patient anyway, but in this situation you have to have a patient spouse. And you still have to be able to communicate because she has to be able to say, okay, this, and this, and this make me uncomfortable. And then they have to dialogue about how to make her comfortable. Because now it's not just about sex. It's about making her comfortable and making her feel secure in this relationship and with this man. Because when you go through abuse, you immediately have a security issue.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that is the issue that needs to be addressed. Not necessarily I wouldn't come straight at the intimacy. I would deal with the security because the security is an emotional issue. And you have to deal with those emotions and heal that person and those emotions. And it may take more than just the dialogue between the two of them. They may have to sit down with somebody else who is knowledgeable and who is qualified to help give them some strategies to heal those emotions. And then once those emotions are healed and that security is built up, then you can move into the next phase.
She has to feel comfortable enough to even talk to you.
That's true.
That's true. Her discomfort.
That's true. I agree. She has to be comfortable, and that's a process.
She has to be vulnerable.
That's not going to happen.
She has to feel that she can be vulnerable.
Right.
Okay. And
it doesn't happen overnight. It's not an overnight situation. I mean, can I say, like with us, I feel like in the beginning there were some issues just based on some past experiences and some things that we had to work through, and it wasn't an overnight thing. There are some things that take a little bit of time. There's some things that we may take a lot of time that could really be settled over 2 or 3 nights of pillow talk. But there's some things that you have to kind of nurture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I know. I'm digging into this for a second. I haven't heard that word pillow talk in a long time. I
still happen.
I believe this is what destroys a lot of relationships that we don't have that pillow talk time anymore.
Yeah.
Because once you finish with the kids, you finish work, you finish doing the housework, you do this, that, and the other, you get into bed and
you collapse.
You
collapse, yeah.
And you don't have that time to just say, how was your day? And not with the answer, just fine.
Right.
Because I know this. I'm just saying I know this, that Wendy's love language that brings her there is just talk to me. Just have a conversation with me. But when you're doing church and you're doing this and you're doing that and you talk all day, you carry on, you know, you're thinking, I just want to do my thing, and the other person is saying, but can we do this first and can we do that first? So a lot of it is not just patience, but knowing that person ain't going nowhere.
Right.
Is it the person's not going anywhere?
Right.
You know, look at the other person's needs also. Now, I want you to introduce the next person on,
Yeah,
our doctor.
To also help us with the response to this question that Kwani posted in the chat room, we have Dr. Equenzi Gray on the line with us. Equenzi, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How's everybody doing?
We're doing good. We're doing
Good.
good, doctor.
Did you catch the question? Did you catch the question, Equenzi?
Well, I mean, I read Kwani's question, and I'm going to try and keep my answer short and PG.
Okay, wait. First, let me tell you, Dr. Gray, we have already established that we passed PG a long time ago. So you don't necessarily have to keep it PG.
keep it wet and moving.
Keep it real.
All right. Well, I mean, the thing about, you know, the nature of sexual abuse is that it can take so many different forms, and it depends on the depth of the abuse and kind of what the person experienced. You know, was it something that, honestly, was it violent? Was it something that the person was coerced into somehow? Was it something that happened one time, or was it repeated? Because all those things have an effect on how a person then responds sexually to their partner. And in terms of the current relationship, yes, you know, I think I heard y'all talking about it earlier in terms of the vulnerability and how that has to be addressed and established over time. But it's going to happen not just in pillow talk. It may happen right in the middle of intercourse and trying to, you know, be intimate in those types of ways. I mean, some people that I've worked with, you know, have had this thing like they're only going to have sex in a certain position because everything else reminds them of the trauma that they experienced. And when they presented that to their spouse was kind of like, okay, either I'm going to live with this and put up with it, or I'm not. When they got into therapy and really started talking about the depths of what was going on, the spouse was able to say, oh, okay, now I understand better. Because while, you know, you were vulnerable with me at home, now you're sharing more details, and I'm getting an even deeper understanding about things that are happening outside the bedroom that may be reenacting that trauma. Things that I have to be conscious of, things that I have to be sensitive to, ways in which I need to approach you across the board that will then make it somewhat easier to deal with some of this.
Okay, that's good.
But without the communication, without the conversation, without the understanding, without, you know, the love languages and all that goes into it, you know, that trauma never really gets effectively dealt with, and it continues to raise it. It can continue to raise issues in the relationship. And it will come out in the bedroom, but it'll come out in other places too. And the bedroom may just be a symptom of it.
Wow.
You know, I mean, you think about those times where you had a fight with your spouse, but it comes out at work, or you go off on your kids, but you're really not mad at them, you're mad at something else that happened. Right. Same type of thing happens in the bedroom. If you're not dealing with the real issue, if you're not really talking and getting to understand what's really going on, sometimes what you think you're dealing with is not that at all.
Wow.
That's very helpful, Dr. Gray.
Hey, Doc, thank you so much, man. It makes a lot of sense. It's just taking us to a whole new level, especially when we're dealing with the subject of abuse. That's where we started from, even before you came out. You know, that you came on. That was something that came out. Communication, talking about it, and I like what you wrote down also in the chat room, speaking about it is okay to go to therapy.
Right.
It is okay to go to therapy. Part of our therapy is saying to God, we believe you want us to do this thing. Part of our therapy is saying, God, God, allow me to be attracted to her or attracted to him. Lord, allow me to like the taste how she tastes. Let me be into her because I'm not really into her. Show me something I haven't seen in her. You know. And
help me fall back in love with her.
Absolutely, absolutely. And just as much as you're saying, Doc, go to therapy.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I want to be better for her.
Right.
Or I want to be better for him. Hey, thank you so much. Thank you so much. We have another question coming in from.
Yeah, we do have another question coming in from the chat room. What if two people are waiting? And Louis, this one, I want you to listen to this question too, please. What if two people are waiting till marriage and both are nervous that they won't be good enough? Is it wrong to try to find videos and books to teach them?
Books. Let's bring on video.
Is it wrong? Is it wrong for educational purposes to teach them? I'll ask Louis and I'll ask them ourselves.
First. I don't know.
Okay. Y'all want to go first, or
No,
you want me to go first?
Go ahead, Louis.
If two people are totally inexperienced in the terms of sexuality and their spouse is now their first, then the experience of discovery is the best teacher.
Yeah, I agree.
When you bring in a third party, when you bring in a video or a book, now you are talking about, particularly for men, because men are visually stimulated.
Yes.
You are talking about the potential of that man developing an addiction and or an affection for what he sees on video.
That's right.
As well as his wife. It's not necessary, to be honest with you. If you got two novices, man, make that minute long session will be mind fun for them.
Yeah.
Wow.
I agree.
They can fumble it. They can fumble the ball. They can go out of bounds. Nobody cares. Why? Because you're discovering each other.
That's right.
And sexuality, from what I understand in my own personal experience and what I've studied, is something that it will mature anyway. And a lot of people who think that it's only physical, they're dead wrong.
Right.
Because what happens in sexual life when you no longer can have an erection, or when you no longer, as a woman, your body does not respond anymore. You still are a sexual being, but now you've got to rely on communication, emotional intimacy, spiritual intimacy, that can be just as stimulating and fulfilling as a sexual climax. And so it's not just about a technique or, the physicality of it. A lot of others are into that. Well, I just watch it because, I really want to know how to please my wife. If you really want to please your wife, be present for her emotionally.
Wow.
Speak into her life. Learn about your woman. Discover who she is. And over time, she will be able to satisfy you, and you will be able to satisfy her. And that's even before any touching the feelings going on.
That's right.
Because when you got sparks, when there's electricity, when there is a chemistry there, you don't need nobody telling you what to do.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
To be honest. And there have been plenty of instances where husbands were able to.
Just say something right now. If
We have to take this to another hour.
if my husband walks in a room and just by his presence, I am what?
I'm never leaving.
I ain't never leaving my house.
I'm never leaving.
I ain't never leaving my
Lost
house.
my job.
Bills ain't paid, nothing. We ain't what?
Wow, that's deep. That's deep. You gotta be careful. You gotta be careful because Al is online.
He sure is online.
He's online, and I see.
And Al can testify to this. You know what I'm saying? Every real dude knows. If you are in tune with your wife, you don't need to be an acrobat.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
That's
You
right.
don't need, you know what I'm saying, to be 30 minutes long and an hour long. No, that stuff is that's what the devil has done to pervert sexuality.
Yes.
He's made it purely so that it's physical. He's removed the spiritual side from our view. He's removed the emotional side. So we only think of it as, if I cannot perform for my wife, then I'm not even a man.
Wow.
That's not true. That's a lie from the pit of hell.
That's why what Ali said a few moments ago makes all the difference in the world. Who are you performing for? If you're performing
Exactly.
for God, if you're performing for God,
That's
you're
right.
on the right track.
That's right.
But if you're performing as if this a group of men are watching you,
That's right.
then you are abusing your wife at that moment in time.
Come on.
And I'm gonna tell you what does it to us as black men, or as men in general. Excuse me, as men in general, is society telling us, or even women. Are you? I want you to get me. Or even women saying, "This is how you need to satisfy me," because there are women out there who watch pornography, and they think it's all about the half an hour, the hour and a half, and what have you. When the truth of the matter is that we as men are messed up by men. Daddies telling us, you better hold your own boy. Uncles telling us, you better hold your own boy. You know what I'm talking about, Lewis. You know, you come from a culture.
Absolutely.
You come from a culture, Lewis, where if you're a man and you ain't holding your own, there's a problem. Or you understand where I'm coming from? Okay. And then we also have the stress of a woman saying you're not holding your own. So then you have to look like these porn stars, or you have to look like these men that people see on TV or what have you, when all a spiritual woman wants is to feel your spirit going into her.
That's right. That's right.
That's it.
Man, I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Wow.
That's great.
Did you have anything you wanted to ask?
He got quiet in here.
Because he shut that down.
Yeah, he said everything. Responding to the question, I definitely wouldn't do, the books and videos, not, because now we're solidifying their point of reference.
Mm.
And if that becomes their point of reference, that is what they will look back to. And that's, anytime your point of reference is faulty, you're going to have issues. Now, I would say later on in life, there are maybe some references, I wouldn't say necessarily videos, but there may be some references, like we read, some books, a Christian blogger who has a book, 31 Days of Great Sex, those kinds of things that can help enhance, not necessarily give you technique, it's not about technique, but just to enhance the way that you, like Lewis says, speak to her on a spiritual and a emotional level. Then those types of things that's a different story. But if you're gonna sit down and watch a video and be like, okay, I'm gonna do exactly what I saw in this video, now you have solidified your point of reference, and your point of reference is no longer your wife.
Right.
And I think too, and I think too, when you all talk about the porn star, female, male, perform acrobatics, stuff like that, whatever, I think that can introduce inadequacies or insecurities into the relationship.
Yeah.
Because you know what?
Absolutely.
Some women who have tended to the children all day may not look like that, or may not have the stamina to do all of that at the end of the day.
That's right.
Sometimes you just get to bed and you are held because you have literally stressed all day, and that's all you need. But when you look at those things, when you look at those videos and whatnot, it's telling you that that's not enough.
Right.
It's telling you that's not enough. And I think it's important that in the context of keeping the marriage bed undefiled, that's what that means. It's really about the two of you.
Yes.
It's really about the two of you and nothing else that you're bringing in other than the two of you. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I agree. That's kind of what I receive from that.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
I would love to really get into a mindset of then what?
Then what? Okay.
Then what? Okay, then what? And I speak about that because a lot of times we as married folks, we know what to say, but we don't talk about the then what. And it's not just for married individuals, but even for those who are single. We just got a question here, Landy, 874. We just got a question there, 874.
Okay. Okay. So the question is, even though we know that sex is for married couples, how does a sister stop satisfying her thirst? I'm assuming that she's not married.
I am not sure, but the question is a loaded question.
And then, okay, I'll ask if they're married. I'm not sure. Start to satisfy. Is she talking masturbation or? I'll just ask.
Yeah,
I'll just ask for
Ask straight, sister. Ask straight.
Yeah, I mean, just give it to me straight. I don't need. She said yes.
Okay.
Are you married? Is that a yes for are you married, or is that a yes for masturbation? She's single.
Okay.
And she's talking masturbation.
Okay.
Is that correct? Okay.
You know, for those who are, because we know we have a mixed multitude online, and those who listen on Blog Talk afterwards. So I want to be very careful when I call out this name when I say Ellen G. White. Okay. Just a very prolific writer, who I believe speaks, speaks to the moment, speaks to our hearts on certain things. And I love something that she said one time. There was someone who came in, was complaining to her because they found their daughter masturbating. And on one level,
90 seconds.
wow, and in one,
You're about to lose.
yeah, and in one mindset, they simply say that you're hurting yourself. That's what they say. You're hurting yourself.
She's not talking about masturbation.
It's not.
She's not talking about masturbation.
What is she talking?
She said she's single. She said no masturbation, but doing it with a partner. She's talking about premarital.
Oh,
That's
she's
what
talking
she's
premarital
saying.
sex.
That's what she's talking about. Okay.
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 That's on y'all.
That's on us.
That's on you.
Again?
How do you stop? Is that the question?
Yes. How do
Okay.
you stop? I believe it's how do you stop?
Right.
Okay.
How do you stop? At me, I'm a cut and dry kind of person, so it's not going to happen overnight. But how do you stop? You stop. I mean, that's really just the bottom line. It's something that we don't do because we choose not to.
Right.
And I've always been of the mindset, because people always say, and we had these issues too, because we're not perfect. So we went through that, and we experienced that firsthand. And there are a lot of people who say, oh, it just happens, I can't control it, this and that and the third. You can. The bottom line is I made a choice. I liked that choice, so I continued it. So how do you stop? You got to stop. You got to pray. It's not something you're going to be able to just do on your own. It might not be just a cold. Some people have the willpower to just be cold turkey. You may not have that willpower, so you may have to, bring down a supernatural, force. But you are going to have to make a conscious decision that you want to do that. If you never make that conscious decision, you won't ever stop.
Yeah, that's true. And then you also have to replace it with something.
Right.
Right. Exactly. That's what I was about to say.
That's the next. Right.
Sure. That's for what do you call it? That's for any habit. Because the truth of the matter is, if you really, really loved that person, and that person loved God, and you loved God, then you would feel at least guilty that you're doing something against God. But if you're just doing it, then you're habitually with a person.
Right.
And how you're going to break a habit is just stopping and replacing it with something else.
I'll give you a intimacy moment.
Okay.
Or intimacy. Like I said, we went through that, right? Before we got married, we counseled with Pastor Kelly. Shout out to Pastor Kelly. That is my man. Anthony Kelly. And at the time I was living with her. And it came out in the session that I was still at the house. And he was like, he gave me the craziest look ever. He was like, dude, you got to get out. Today.
That's real talk.
Wow.
That's real talk.
It's not a discussion.
He was like, come, I'm in
Right.
Chicago, you're in Michigan, come.
Yeah, he was like, whatever you got to do.
You
He was like, whatever you got to
today.
do, you got to leave today. We're not going to continue. You have to leave today. And that's why I'm saying sometimes it has to be cut and dry. You got to make a decision. And at that point, I had to make a decision. Okay, am I just going to, just step lightly around this thing and, be like, oh, I don't know if I really want to do that, and blah, blah, blah. He was like, when you leave my office, go get your things.
Just like that.
Yeah.
Period. And at that point, I had to make a decision. Okay, I went to her and I was like, I'm about to go stay on the campground with Pastor Kelly. And it was just like that. It was just, there was no weaning period. There was no, let me think about it. Literally that afternoon, he told me, and that night I was sleeping in a different bed.
Wow.
It happened that fast. And so sometimes it has to be that. And you have to, the replacement may have to be something drastic, is really the point that I'm getting to. The replacement might have to be something drastic. You may have to get rid of that person. and replace that person with somebody who is going to respect the struggle that you are. You're going to, and appreciate that and hold you accountable to it.
Wow. You know, I know that our time is fleeting. Our time is actually done. This has been so awesome simply because I've learned. I don't know about anybody else in this room, but I've learned. And one of the things that I'm realizing more and more is that we cannot, I like the term you use, step lightly in our marriages by saying, you know, I'm going to withhold. Because what you're saying is, I'm withholding worship.
Right.
You're saying, the glue that God has given us, I refuse to use what God has given us.
And the enemy is not going to step lightly on your your refusal. He's going to take anything, any little wedge that he can,
run with that,
and he's going to run with it.
Which brings us to this: your relationship with the Lord is a wall of protection around your marriage.
Yeah.
And your marriage is a wall of protection around your family. Don't let it crumble.
Yeah.
Don't let the devil come in, especially because of that situation. You know, and I think it's awesome. I really think it's awesome when we can get together and begin thinking about what is the next step.
Yeah.
What is the next step? And I was gonna use that. Let's get I was gonna go over all kinds of other stuff, but God has given us certain gems, certain gems that's going to take us to the next level. And I really believe that if we truly believe in God and truly believe that God put you and your spouse together, and that you do not have the gift of singleness, meaning that you want to be married one day, you ought to follow, these points of advice, because when you get there, you're going to reach a crossroad, and you're going to have to make some decisions, to move forward with God, move forward with your spouse the way God would want you to move with them, or get out. And most people get out mentally and still in the house. Right?
Can I also say can I add one thing as well? To the question from the young lady who said she was single and wanting to know how to quit having premarital sex with her partner. I think it's also important. I know a lot of people look at this as a taboo topic, that you're actually having premarital sex and people don't really talk about it because, it's not supposed to be happening or whatnot. But I think that this is what kills us, and this is what handicaps us from actually having strength and power over the issue.
Right.
There are some people in the chat room that are responding to her saying, I'll pray for you. Yes, it's hard. It's difficult. I had to do it. I've been 8 months free. Stuff like that. People are talking like that. And I think it goes to show that there is power, there is strength in numbers.
That's right.
Wow.
So people need to kind of just shed that stigma, because it's that stigma of shame that God doesn't give you, that the devil gives you, that prevents you from being able to speak and testify to someone else that is also going through.
That's right.
So what I'm saying is that sometimes we need to let go of that pride and speak to the issue in the lives of others. Speak to that issue so that you can help that person out. When they're feeling weak, they come to you and they say, okay, come take me to the mall, because I'm about to call this dude right now, and I want to go to the mall and buy some.
Wow.
So but that takes
That's
us shedding that level of shame that the devil gives us, and being real about the issue.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Was that for me?
No, that was really for me.
That was for you. Okay.
I usually get I get it from you.
Oh, okay. Oh, because we're over time.
I get it from you.
We are like 10 minutes over time.
That's all right.
So tonight was awesome. We have some questions in the chat room that we did not get to answer. So this is what I'm going to tell you to do. If you like us on Facebook, BBC Unplugged, post your questions there, and we're going to continue this discussion because we're out of time right now. So we'll continue this discussion at BBC Unplugged on our Facebook page. Post your questions there. There's a lot of chatter going on in the chat room, and I don't want it to end. So just go that way. and we'll continue the conversation there, and we'll ask Denise and Ali to post their materials and whatnot that they were talking about earlier as well.
Absolutely.
On the BBC Unplugged page.
Okay.
All right? So now, this is the last week of April. We typically do our shows first and third Mondays of each month. Because of Alumni Weekend this month, we had some changes in our schedule, but we are back on schedule starting next month, which is next week.
That's next week.
Next Monday evening. Now, I want to talk to Pastor Graham about our topic. We already have a topic in place, but I think we kind of need to continue this discussion because we have a lot going on in the chat room, and the numbers are still climbing. So just look out for us. Like us on Facebook. We'll give you the information in terms of next week's topic. Well, we will be back next week, 7:30 p.m. Go ahead and share it. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your enemies. That's what we say.
That's right.
So tell your enemies, because everybody needs to have a better life.
Hey,
you know?
That's right. It's true.
You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
So with that, I turn it back over to Pastor Graham. I want to thank Ali and Denise again. Thank you guys so much for coming in.
Thank you
So much for the
Appreciate
real
it.
conversation. Real conversation tonight. Hopefully some people learn some things. I know I learned some things. And this begins a dialogue as to, how we get real about this marriage thing and how we submit to one another, even in our sexual intimacy.
Absolutely.
That's right.
And again, we want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. We had a wonderful, wonderful show, a wonderful time, but we're going to continue this again. It is so important to understand what God is saying. And what God is simply telling each one of us is that if He made it, it's still good. If He put it together, it is still good. And if it's coming apart, He's the glue. Let's keep applying or reapplying the glue. Again, we want to thank you for joining us on BBC Unplugged. And again, until we meet again next week on the...
whatever the first Monday in May.
Whatever she just said.
Whatever date that is.
Like
next
us,
Monday.
like us, look out for us. But again, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again soon. Oh, before we go, you can also download the app.
Yes.
Come on, let's talk about that very quickly.
Yes. Awesome Ministry. Okay, so Awesome Ministry, we partnered up, BBC Unplugged, we partnered up under Full Circle Ministries with Awesome Ministry. I'm wearing their shirt tonight. I don't know if that's... Yeah, okay, I got their shirt on tonight, Awesome Ministry.
All right, Al, that's your problem, not ours.
I got a shirt on tonight, but Awesome Ministry, download the app. Go Android, the App Store, download the app. You can watch us live from the app. We have a bunch of other things on the app. Shout out to Abby, shout out to Darren of Awesome Ministry. They're doing big things. Check them out. Like them on Facebook too. Awesome Ministry. Shout out to them.
All right, and we just want you to know that starting on May 1st, we're going to begin Bible Boot Camp, 5 o'clock in the morning. That's right, Bible Boot Camp, 5 o'clock in the morning. For those who would like to join me at 5 o'clock in the morning. Okay, what time do we say? 5 o'clock in the morning. All of May, we're going to be talking about getting rid of your baggage. 5 to 5:30 every single morning. Every single morning for the month of May. Remember to tell your friends about BBC Unplugged. Take care. Be good. We'll see you next week. Yeah, I don't even know how to say goodbye. Later. Goodbye. Wait, one last thing.
Later.
No.
Oh.
The rebroadcast.
Oh, yes. The rebroadcast.
One last thing. That's her fault. I just want
No,
everybody to know it's her fault.
I would need y'all to know that he is in control of the controls here. He
Wow.
just talks. So,
Wow.
he wants you to talk about the rebroadcast. The rebroadcast will be available on our YouTube channel tomorrow morning. So, look out for the rebroadcast of this show. Share it. Tell people we'll be back next week. And just share the rebroadcast. So, it'll be up tomorrow morning on the BBC Unplugged Facebook page as well. Okay? That's the rebroadcast.
Bless you.
Have a friend in Jesus, and He knows all about it.